Hello, sports ramblings fans. Welcome back to a great show where you can definitely trust our picks because we totally did not get every game wrong last week. Tim?
It was a rough week last week, Mikey, but we'll bounce back. It was a speed bump.
Yeah, you can't be perfect every week. So, just to recap, we said Notre Dame would beat BC, but it's always close. Notre Dame actually, I think, covered the spread against BC for the first time like ever. So good for the Irish. LSU is going to kill Mississippi State. Yeah, worst game LSU's ever had against Mississippi State. Louisville, I said, would beat Clemson. Wrong. Tennessee would beat Florida. Wrong. What else did I predict? I predicted some games that I was right, but I didn't mention them on air, so you can't count it.
Yes.
What other important games were there last week?
I think those are the big ones we covered,
Like
Mikey.
before. Well, so let's get on to the recap. Notre Dame against Boston College. Looked like Notre Dame did against Temple. I watched most of that game. I was at my cousin's house helping them with stuff and things, and saw parts of the game, and the parts I didn't see were like the last couple touchdowns because I'm like, oh, it's the game's about to be over, and like my mom was coming in town from like 10 days in Florida, and I wasn't at home, so had to go home. But good news for those of you who are not able to find your television or your ways to the house that Rockme built. If you have satellite radio, the Catholic channel airs Notre Dame games.
That is a fact. That's real news, folks.
That is real news. Granted, of course, it was Notre Dame Boston College, but sources that I don't really trust, but I kind of have to here, do say that the Catholic channel airs all of Notre Dame's football games. So
I'm pretty sure that is true.
that
They
this is
they,
not
they
CNN.
broadcast every
This is
one.
real news right here. This is
It's
not
real
CNN.
news,
Um,
not CNN.
I mean, I don't really think there's much to say about the Boston College game. The defense looked competent. The offense ran everywhere. Tim, anything of
Uh,
note?
uh, Not a whole lot, but again, it started off kind of how I expected. A slow first half, and we were Notre Dame was only up by like four, I think, at
Hmm
the half,
we
14
were
to
Notre
10.
Dame was losing at one point.
Yeah, we were losing at one point, like 10-7, I think.
Hmm
And but yeah, Notre Dame only had about a 4-point halftime lead. Excuse me. And I thought that, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go again, another tight, close Boston College game. But we actually, decided to make some halftime adjustments, which, is relatively unheard of in the Brian Kelly era here. But we actually managed to do that this time, and we came out, and the offense was, firing on all cylinders like they were against Temple there in the second half. So, and Brandon Wimbush, record-setting game, he had over 200 yards rushing, 4 rushing touchdowns. Both are records for a Notre Dame quarterback in a single game. So that's pretty impressive. As Mike gives a
Native
little
of Stanford
profile.
Hall, by the way.
Oh yeah, shout out to Stanford Hall, by the way. Straw, Brandon Wimbush,
Yeah.
proud member.
So, so yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about the Notre Dame game because it went. I mean, whenever like I would not know how we would live if we were Alabama students or, God forbid, Alabama fans that didn't go there because I mean, there'd be nothing to talk about like just about every game. So,
Well, we beat the crap out of Ole Miss this week. Woohoo!
yeah,
That's about what you have to say if you're in Alabama.
Colorado State or whoever the Tide
Yeah.
played this week. So good for Notre Dame. It's a good thing when there's not much to talk about for Notre Dame because, well, if when you play a cupcake and Boston College, despite the fact they're a Power Five school, we all know they're competing with Wake Forest for the weakest link of the ACC. Maybe some other schools might want to vie for that title. Pittsburgh is not on the road to looking relevant, but Boston College is a cupcake, and when you play cupcakes, you're supposed to kill them. And Notre Dame did that. Good job, Brian Kelly. Your seat might have cooled off a degree or two. Don't get comfortable. So it's got a big test this week. LSU, yeah. I mentioned this earlier. Worst loss in the series against Mississippi State ever. One of the biggest losses LSU's had in recent history. I mean, 30-point loss. I personally thought it was worse than the 2011 BCS championship game where LSU did not cross midfield.
You thought it was that bad?
It was worse in my opinion. I mean, that game in the BCS game against Alabama, the defense actually made some pretty good goal line stands, some pretty good stops, and death by field goals and Jordan Jefferson is what caused the problem in that game. This game, some of my friends, some of my dad's friends asked me, Mikey, what happened? I didn't get a chance to watch the game. Everything that could have gone wrong for LSU did go wrong. I mean, it started off early. Danny Etling threw a pass to what the hell is his name? Chark, DJ Chark, I think. And it was a touchdown, but everyone's second favorite call in the world, offensive pass interference, was called, and then they show the replay. So you have two receivers. This guy's going downfield. It's mirrored for you, but it's right for me. So this guy's going downfield. And then this guy is, I'm trying to get it right because it's mirrored, is going in. And the guy's covering this guy, the guy that's supposed to be covering the outside guy covers this guy, and the guy who's covering this guy tries to go to the outside guy, literally runs into the LSU player, falls down. Somehow that's offensive pass interference. Some referee apparently affirmed, head referee, went on an LSU show, was yeah, that's a good call. That's just really dumb. I mean, that's bad. I don't know what they saw there. So that touchdown got called away, and, well, you never want to say a call ruined the game, but after that, it just seemed like LSU didn't know how to recover. Every single play that looked like something was good happened got called back, barring the single LSU touchdown. It was oh, Danny Etling completed a good pass. No, he didn't. Oh, LSU LSU held him to 3 and out. Well, there, you roughed the passer, or, LSU had 2 players ejected for targeting, 2 targeting ejections. I've never seen 2 ejections from the same team in one game. So you have 2 targeting calls, and OPI, they do just a laundry list of penalties, and most of them were 10 and 15 yarders. I mean, the cowbell must have gotten to him, and the average response for an LSU fan whenever a game goes wrong is blame the quarterback. But that was not the issue. Danny Etling played pretty well. I mean, there are plenty of passes where Chark, LSU's star wide receiver, beat the coverage, was 10 yards downfield from the next closest defender, and the ball just hits him literally in the hands, and he just can't catch it. Guaranteed touchdown if I was throwing that pass. I can't really outrun a college safety, but if I had the ball handling skills to catch that pass, and I am not athletic. So, I mean, that's the kind of thing that happened. Just nothing went right for LSU. And a lot of people in the sports media that I've heard is oh, LSU needs to panic like Tennessee and Florida and A&M and Mizzou and all these other places. And my first response to that is no one who's an LSU fan that I've talked to, no one is even thought the coaches had anything to do with it. I mean, the LSU fan base for once is being rational and realizes that this is just the growing pains that comes when you have a brand new head coach, a relatively new defense coordinator, a brand new offensive coordinator who don't necessarily have the players in for their system. Now, I mean, I don't think it's prudent to want to fire your head coach after his third game of his first season. That's just completely absurd. LSU is in no position to do that, just because you haven't even given coach a chance really. And even if you could get a home run ball like a Chip Kelly or Bob Stoops or whatever, kind of being a cynic, what use is it when you're in the same division as a Nick Saban coach team? I mean, this is not the time for drastic measures if you're LSU or any SEC West team. I think if you're Mississippi State, you were you were starting to get a little iffy on Dan Mullen. You're nope, we're fine. Please keep this man as long as possible, because Dan Mullen, my God, just hats off to you and your cowbells. That's all you can say. Mississippi State came to play. LSU made some mistakes, and Mississippi State completely capitalized on it. So, just kind of fishing off that coaching statement though, don't even listen to anyone saying Coach O is going to get fired this year. I mean, things literally have to go a lot worse. Like, and granted, losing your first conference game by 30 points is not a good sign, but the SEC is still pretty freaking terrible. I mean, I still feel like Alabama's the only surefire loss there, barring another fluke. So, no one here in down on the bayou has pressed the panic button on Bebe yet, and I don't think anyone who says Coach O needs to be fired or LSU fans want him to be fired are people that didn't like the hire in the first place. So to them, I can say freaking get over it. I mean, you can't bring Les Miles back. I don't want to say these things are going to happen because I hope they don't, but I mean it's way too early to press the panic button. I mean, who knows? This Mississippi State might just surprise us all. So I think I've talked enough about that. I mean, that's all I really can say. It's just in terms of the game, everything that could have gone wrong for LSU did go wrong. And then outside of that, I mean, it's just growing pains. I mean, this isn't a situation like Notre Dame and Brian Kelly where he's been around plenty enough time to have his system implemented and, things are this disastrous. So, take a deep breath. Everything might be okay. LSU barely hanging in there in the top 25. Not that it matters anymore. But, I mean, you got a game against Syracuse this week back in Death Valley. Get things back on the road. Get things back on track. Hopefully, iron out some of those penalties or most of those penalties because that you're not going to do well in the SEC committing, two targetings and an OPI in the same game. So, Tim, anything to add to that?
I mean, you pretty much cover as much as you needed to there. I think I would just echo that was some pretty undisciplined football that I watched on Saturday night. Like, I mean, it's been a long time since I've watched a football team be that undisciplined. I'm not sure, what the issue was there. Maybe it was the crowd there in Stark Vegas got to them and all the cowbells. I don't know. Maybe I'm sure that played a factor. Don't know how big of a factor it was, but I'm sure it was a factor. But still, if you're LSU, you can't be, you can't just be committing that many penalties, have multiple targeting penalties in the same game. I mean, I don't care who you are, you're not going to win many football games playing like that. It's just you're putting yourself way too much behind the eight ball. And so, yeah, that was just really undisciplined football by the Tigers. But like you said, Mike, hats off to Mississippi State. I mean, I was really skeptical of Nick Fitzgerald, their quarterback, coming in. I knew he had played last year because, Dak Prescott had moved on to the NFL. But and so I'd seen him play a little bit last year. I'm like, this kid's okay, but he's certainly not
studs. Dude played out of his mind that game. Like,
oh yeah, I always thought like, he's okay, but he's not. Last week was definitely his coming out party, and Dan Mullen, I think his job security there at Mississippi State just went up significantly after that game. So, and they've got a big game this weekend at Georgia. So that's a big cross-divisional game there in the SEC. So, I mean, maybe they end up being the surprise team in that conference this year. I don't know. It's still a lot left to be determined, but they're certainly starting the conference play on the right foot.
Yeah, I mean, and hats off to Dan Mullen. I mean, both as a coach, but also recruiting. I mean, I think Fitzgerald might have been a 3-star, if I'm not mistaken. Dak for sure was a 3-star. Like, he's getting these players that, your big Alabama and LSU and Florida and them are just kind of, breezing over. Dan Mullen gets them and turns them into, Dak Prescott, who we'll see, not exactly starting off, his sophomore year in the NFL good, but still, stud college quarterback. So I'd even go as far as to say Dan Mullen's the second best coach in the SEC. I mean, that's pretty I mean, who else are you going to say? Kirby Smart, it's too early at Georgia. The rest of the East is a dumpster fire. Most of the West is either a dumpster fire or Coach O and company. Clearly are still new, so they got a little bit of, beginners. They're still got some training wheels, so no one's calling for their heads yet. It'll be at least another year or so before they get to that point. Speaking of SEC hot seats, Texas A&M historically lost to University of Southwestern Louisiana in the 90s. UL, as it is now called, UL Lafayette, since its name change, has used that victory as a recruiting tool for decades. And it looked like on Saturday they were on path to another victory over the Aggies, leading them 21-14 at half. A&M decided they don't want to get. Kevin Sumlin decided he did not want to get fired at the hands of a Sun Belt team, and actually kind of won that game. But still, hats off to UL Lafayette for starting off that game strong. Other upsets, Memphis Tigers, well, at least some Tigers played good this weekend, hosted UCLA and beat them. So I think A&M should be pressing a panic button because they lost to a team who lost to Memphis and then were struggling against a Sun Belt team. That's not good. Aggie fans, a panic button. Y'all can press the panic button. LSU will give you their panic button they used last year, and you can press the panic button twice as fast. I've heard in LA, it's kind of cool to fire coaches on the tarmac. So you missed an opportunity there last week, but who knows? Maybe in their Southwest Classic or Southwest Showdown against Arkansas in Jerry's World this weekend. Who knows? That might be. I feel like that game might be a loser coach gets fired type of game. But we'll get to the previews next later. Shout out to Vanderbilt. Ranked K-State team came into Nashville and Vanderbilt won. Vanderbilt actually is looking pretty good.
This guy, oops, this way. I'm pointing this. Where am I
point the other way.
This guy over here predicted beforehand that Vanderbilt was going to win this game, and I can vouch for that. So.
Yeah, and of course that was after I stopped the camera rolling on Sports Rams. I'm like, Kansas State's going to Vanderbilt. I would be surprised. Vanderbilt's played well in its first couple games. I wouldn't be surprised, if the home team can pull it off. Whatever. Should have said it on the air, but what can you do?
Missed your golden opportunity, Mikey.
I did. Maybe that's why we don't have more subs. Okay, so let's move on. What other games? Tennessee, Florida. The game to end all games.
That's definitely the game of the week, I would think.
But for a bad reason. Close as can be. Tennessee has the ball down 3 on the 9-yard line. Their running back's been tearing it up. They decide not to ignore him. Or try and pass, literally almost a Marshawn, or really almost a Seahawks Super Bowl type play call. Luckily, they don't turn it over. They have to settle for a field goal, tie it up, and then Florida has the ball. Looks like Les Miles-esque clock management, not spiking the ball. I think they were out of timeouts, just letting the clock run and run and run. It's like, what are you doing? Y'all are both trying to out-lose this game. And then Florida, the most athletic play this quarterback will make in his life, throws a 63-yard touchdown pass because Tennessee didn't think, it's tied, and we, and they theoretically, are probably going to do a Hail Mary here. Let's not run a prevent defense. And so the guy was pretty open, in the end zone. I mean, he had a guy close by, but not close enough to actually do anything. Florida scores, and, well, that's back-to-back trips to Gainesville for the Volunteers that have ended in a walk-off Hail Mary at the hands of one of the worst offenses in college football. So, Butch Jones might want to find a good realtor there in Knoxville, and Jim McElwain by no means should, take his for sale sign down either. He didn't exactly give Florida fans a reason to be confident in him. Honestly, the only thing he had going for him was he didn't lose. but
Yeah.
like everything else looked terrible. What the score at halftime was 3-6 or some dumb shit like that.
I think it was. I think Florida led 6-3 going into the fourth quarter, and then just like offensive explosion.
Atrocious. Yeah, explosion. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
as only the SEC can do. And Tennessee's kicker missed field goals, like complete and utter disaster.
Oh, Tennessee special teams lost them that game.
I
So
mean-
many missed field goals. I think they gave Florida a couple good kick returns late, which gave them great field position to then go down the field and score. So their special teams definitely lost them that game. And like you said, Mikey, when Tennessee had the ball with about 2 minutes to go or so, and they were down inside the 10, how do you not give the ball to your running back?
Who's been literally all of your
John
off-
Kelly?
Yeah.
Well, he was going off in the fourth quarter. He broke off like a huge 35-yard touchdown run or something like that. And as he gets to the end zone, he's giving the fans the gator chomp. I mean, he's riling them up. I mean, it's like, how do you not give the ball to him in that situation?
I mean,
you do. You probably win the game.
I mean, people say Les Miles was fired from LSU. What he really did just became the all-time offensive coordinator in that Florida-Tennessee game. I mean, that's the only explanation I can have. So Butch Jones, his days are numbered, and I think that number might be whenever Tennessee plays Georgia. I don't know when that is in the season, but whatever the numbered days are, I think that might be it. Yeah, that it's not looking good for good old Butch there.
It's a mess.
And the boys in Knoxville. So, yeah, that game was both painful to watch and thoroughly entertaining because of just how bad it is. Again, LSU fans, this is why you should not press the panic button. These are your two crossover games. Les Miles calling offensive plays, like ghost calling a game for Tennessee in terms of how bad some of the offensive calls are. And then Florida, well, I mean, just they're not good either. They
Zero offense.
just, I mean, literally that pass was probably the only good offensive play they had all game. It was atrocious. That game is terrible. I mean, both fan bases should be embarrassed. Like, just stop. That game was so bad. Like, I knew it had potential to be like a dumpster fire of a game, but this was my most painful. I saw on someone tweet, I think it might have been Faux Polini or someone else, like, this is an ESPN instant classic that no one will ever want to watch again.
Yeah.
But actually,
watch the fourth quarter. Don't watch the first three because you'll fall asleep.
yeah, it was a 10-minute football game in all reality. So I'm not complimenting either team. Florida, you won, but you still suck. So we're gonna.
I still find that funny that that was versus a ranked matchup, and yet it was such a boring game for 3+ quarters.
Yeah, Georgia's going to win. I'm more and more convinced each day Georgia's going to win the SEC East. We'll see against Mississippi State this week, but, I mean, that's a crossover game, so Georgia has potential to do very well this year. I think it's safe to say that. More reason, Purdue went into Columbia, Missouri, and whooped on the Mizzou Tigers. So Purdue... Is Purdue 3-0? Am I seeing?
Purdue is 3-0.
Am I? Has
No, sorry, 2-1. 2-1 because they lost to Louisville week 1, but they only lost by a touchdown.
And that game was close. So Purdue's looking pretty decent. What is the world coming to?
And they've got a big game this weekend hosting Michigan. So
yeah, I mean.
That could be a signature win if that's at home, like I said. So I mean,
upset alert for the khaki pants Michigan Harbaughs.
I'm putting Michigan at upset alert this week.
Definitely. We'll again cover that when we get to future games. Clemson Louisville. Dabo Swinney is the second best coach in college football behind Nick Saban. No questions asked. I'd be tempted to say he might even be better than Saban. But the thing is, for Saban, every game is a big game. Whereas for Dabo, ACC doesn't get as much light as the SEC. He'll have games that people just kind of ignore, and then it's like, oh, it's a big game. I wonder how Clemson's going to do. And it seems that he wins every time. the Purple Tigers, the LSU wannabes, which now LSU wants to be Clemson, the other Death Valley. Those Clemson Tigers are always prepared to play the big games. They never see scared of a big matchup. I mean, they just took it to Louisville. Lamar Jackson was exposed, as LSU did to him in the Citrus Bowl. I mean, he actually scored a touchdown this game. Louisville actually had some better offense this game. But, I mean, Dabo, please, oh my God, he's so good. He is what I thought of Bob Stoops before Bob Stoops retired. Big game Dabo, big game Bob. I mean, Tim, I'm speechless. That was just this is I bet it against him. I'm probably never gonna say Dabo can't win a big game. I'm never gonna doubt Dabo in a big game ever again. I thought I would have been burned in the Chick-fil-A Bowl when Taj Boyd beat LSU. I just there's no reason to doubt Dabo anymore. He's gonna win every big game. It's safe to assume that. So
no, I completely agree. I was blown away by Clemson this past weekend. I mean, both Mikey and I thought that Louisville was going to win this game. Lamar Jackson wanted revenge from almost winning that game a year ago at Clemson. This year it was at home at Louisville. Game day was there. We thought this had the potential to be another showing like Louisville had against FSU last year, and it was the complete opposite. I mean, people have been questioning Clemson. They lost so many good players from last year's title team. They're not going to be the same, and because they only played cupcakes really before this game. But I mean, like you said, Mikey, Dabo Swinney always has his guys ready to go in big games. And, I mean, from this point forward, I don't know how you can pick against Clemson in a big game. They always find a way to win, and more often than not, they find a way to win big, which is what they did this weekend. I mean, absolutely shut down Louisville. They couldn't get anything going on the offensive side of the ball. Clemson, I think, is once again contending for the national championship. And for Louisville, they're in some big trouble, especially with this early conference loss now. And I think this may have been the nail in the coffin for Lamar Jackson's chance at winning back-to-back Heismans. After a performance like that, he still, the stats were still pretty decent, but you just look at the overall product, he just doesn't seem to pass the eye test in that game. I find it really hard to believe that he wins the Heisman now, especially when you've got guys like Saquon Barkley, even Sam Darnold, even though he struggled. You've got guys like that playing around college football. I find it really hard to believe that Lamar's going to win the Heisman again this year. Just phenomenal performance by Clemson.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And moving on, you mentioned Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold and his USC Trojans hosted Texas Longhorns. What happened the last time the Longhorns played USC in the city of Los Angeles? Something about this guy named Young. Some kind of touchdown play and a fourth, something big happened.
This guy named kind of had the game of his life, scampering to the corner of the end zone, final seconds of the fourth quarter at this place called the Rose Bowl. It was kind of a big game. About 8-9 years ago.
12 years ago.
12 years ago. Man, it's going by fast, man.
He's an accounting major. He graduated in accounting, and he can't count years. That's something I would do.
Because it feels like just yesterday, that fourth or fifth grader, and now it's 12 years ago. Damn.
Yeah. So, a long, long time ago. So, this time, things ended up in USC's favor. They were favored big, but yet this pesky little bug in college called overtime ended up being necessary to determine the game. So I didn't actually watch. I was following along on Twitter. The college football subreddit RCFB has a Twitter account, and the whole game they were tweeting out just like kind of like a survey, like, you know, with 2 bullet points and 1 checked off. Texas is back or Texas is not back. And it literally seemed like every single drive, Texas was either back or not back, creating the Schrodinger's Texas. Texas is both back and not back until they either win or lose a game. So at the end of the game, I feel like we can say Texas is back-ish after an embarrassing Week 1 loss to Maryland at home. The Longhorns went on the road to USC and actually, you know, put together a respectable effort. You know, like I said, they took the Sam Darnold, who people are still really high on. You know, they took a top 10 team to what was it, double overtime, or did it take double overtime? So, you know what? I was about to compliment Charlie Strong, but oops. Tom Herman is doing a great job at Texas in his first year. Again, growing pains were obvious against Maryland. Still lost to USC, but I mean, you can't be too upset with that effort if you're a Longhorn fan, considering you were going on the road to a top 10 team and a Heisman favorite, and, you know, this guy who might be taken number 1 in the NFL draft. The fact that you took them to double overtime, you can't be upset about that. I mean, that's about as good as you can hope for.
And I think Texas probably should have won that game too, because I mean they had the ball with like under a minute, with about a minute and a half or so to go, marched down the field. And, they had 2 huge 4th down conversions on that drive to keep the game going. And this was what true quarterbacking, too. So, I mean, just crazy impressive. But I thought that Texas scored too early in this game. They scored the go-ahead touchdown with about like 45 seconds left. I'm like, you left Sam Darnold way too much time to get his team down the field and kick and at least get a field goal to send this game to overtime. And I'm like, I don't know if Texas has the gas to win in overtime.
And
so
they didn't.
And yeah, and Texas, I think Texas had 1-2 timeouts there with on that final drive, and they're still passing the ball, trying to take shots at the end zone. I'm like, run the ball here, take some time off the clock, maybe make you. I think USC was out of timeouts, so you just run the ball, take some clock off, and then you still have 2 timeouts if you need them. And you don't want to give the USC offense 45 seconds to get down the field to at least kick a field goal. So I thought that was rather poor play calling on Texas's end. I thought if they played their cards a little better, they could have even won this game in regulation. But still, just a really, really impressive showing from them as a whole. I think that this is definitely something to build on going forward, especially after that ugly season opening loss to Maryland. So I think that I wouldn't say that Texas is back by any means, but
almost back.
If they beat an Oklahoma or an Oklahoma State, then I will say, which I don't think is going to happen. No. But if that does, then I will say that Texas is back. But for the time being, they're back-ish. But they at least have a foundation in place after that impressive showing in LA.
Yep. Tim, how many teams have Les Miles calling their offensive plays? Does it seem like? It seemed like a lot of college football had Les Miles
way calling. Too many, man. I mean, listen, some of these play callers, I don't know what's going through their heads. Maybe they're trying to get too fancy or too caught up in the moment. But it's like some of these plays, I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I mean, I'm like, now I hate to say that I would do a better job because that's why I'm here, they're there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, some of these plays, I'm like, What?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you justify that?
It's like, if you can get me to the 2 minute, there's no 2 minute warning, but if you could get me to, like, your last drive, or like, I could be like a common sense coach that just ends the game in a good and tactful manner or whatever. Like, it just seems like teams need a common sense coach. Tennessee, guys, they need a touchdown. They need a score on this play. Everyone line up on like the 30-yard line and don't let anyone behind you. Someone is about to burn you. Tackle his ass. Get a pass interference call. They get 15 yards and an untimed down.
Something.
Like, literally, just tackle the guy. Like, don't even let him pass you. Like, it. Of course, you never want to coach just, it doesn't matter type plays. But, I mean, you can even go back to Alabama on the last play of the championship game last year. Nick said, if those just tackle every one of Clemson's wide receivers if they're about to get open, take a pass interference call, and there's an untimed down or something. Like, it seems like teams, even mighty Nick at Alabama, need a coach of common sense to just literally show up to the game, like, in the fourth quarter, look at the clock, look at the situation, be like, how's everyone doing? Running back good? Quarterback good? Whatever. Okay, run the damn ball.
Yeah.
Timeout.
Thank you, Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, Sandra Bullock needs to be, calling some of these last-minute plays.
Not for Tennessee, right? Because she won't wear that gaudy orange.
I mean, she could, I don't know, whatever. Who cares? Blindside quotes left and right here on Sports Ramblings. So Schrodinger's Texas is alive and well. They are both back and not back at many points in time in the same season. So, there's one more game I want to just briefly brush over out west. The San Diego State Aztecs taking it to the Stanford Cardinal. A bit of a Super Bowl flashback in that game. Apparently the Chargers are no longer paying the electricity bill because the lights did go off. So not only was it Pac-12 After Dark, which has a tendency to cause overtime, high-scoring, epic comeback, just weird games, but it was Pac-12 in the dark.
Ooh.
So, congratulations to the Aztecs enacting Montezuma's revenge on the Stanford Cardinal. Yeah, Stanford has 2 losses already. That's not good for them. I mean,
they finally have a home game this week, though.
I know. Who do they play?
Who do they play? Yeah, UCLA. Mm-hmm.
UCLA has not beat Stanford in a long time. So
I think Stanford wins that game.
Yeah. Tim, if there aren't any games from last weekend in the college arena that you want to cover, we can get into looking forward.
No, let's do it. Let's look forward, man.
So Stanford hosts UCLA. Stanford's going to win. I mean, UCLA lost to Memphis. They should have lost to Texas A&M. I mean, it's at Stanford, and Coach Moore at UCLA hasn't beaten Stanford in his 6 or 7 years there. That's not a recipe for success. I'm not claiming to be an expert on this matchup by any means, but I just have no reason to just gut feeling is like, oh yeah, Stanford's going to win.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that David Shaw is too good of a head coach to let this slide continue for much longer. But I mean, personally, I think David is one of the top 10, maybe even top 5 coaches in college football, given the circumstances that he has there at Stanford. Mm-hmm. So I think he's too good of a head coach to let this happen again. I think they're gonna get back on track against a UCLA team that's clearly struggling too. Like I said, I think Stanford's just going to be excited to finally be back at home because, they play a game in Australia, then had a bye week, and then we're at USC and at San Diego State. So I think they're finally going to be excited to be back home. Mm-hmm. And I think UCLA is still kind of reeling from that loss to Memphis. And like I said, they probably should have lost to A&M, but we all know what happened there. So I really don't find any reason to really pick against Stanford in this one.
Another fun factoid I just kind of remembered I'm going to make up the rest of it. David Shaw, this was like the first time he has lost back-to-back games at Stanford in a while, possibly ever, but it's been a while if it's happened. Like, if so, it was like pre-Andrew Luck. I mean, Stanford just does not lose in back-to-back weeks. So I think you can chalk this one up to the fluke column. Yeah, so congratulations to the Aztecs again, but I don't see any reason to doubt Stanford. The Aussie national champions will get back to 500 this weekend. So, and I will call them the Aussie national champions all season long until
someone wins next year. Yeah,
until someone else wins a game in Australia. I will call Stanford the Aussie national champions. The Bloomin' Onion Bowl, I don't know. That's out back. The Boomerang Bowl, the Emu War.
The Kangaroo Bowl.
The Kangaroo Bowl. Yeah, the Emu War might be a little too soon for some of our friends in the land down under. So Stanford's playing UCLA. Mississippi State is going to Georgia. I originally thought, a few weeks ago after Notre Dame lost to Georgia, Georgia's going to win this game. Yeah, Mississippi State seems to be a lot better than we all think. They did just pull off a win and upset against LSU. Not only upsetting LSU, but the best they have ever beaten LSU. I mean, the most lopsided victory for the Bulldogs in the LSU Mississippi State series ever. So, this is probably going to be one of the most paid attention to games of the week. Could really mean a lot for the SEC. They are in different divisions, so not necessarily as much for the SEC champion, but for that New Year's Six bowl bid that the team that is not Alabama will go to. So I don't exactly know what to expect. I reluctantly, I'm going to give the edge to Georgia just because it's between the hedges in Athens. That's the only reason I'm going to say Georgia. I have every reason, I can't doubt Dan Mullen because, I was completely wrong. So I need to, kind of pump the brakes, I need to take a bye week on picking Mississippi State games and just see what's going to happen. I need another reading on the Bulldogs and the Bulldogs. So we will see which Bulldog is the more Bulldoggy. Mississippi State has already conquered the Bulldogs of Louisiana Tech. Can they beat another Bulldog mascot? The most common and boring mascot in all sports.
You know what? I'm gonna take their parentinator here, and I'm gonna say that I'm gonna take Mississippi State in this one. I think they're gonna be riding this wave of momentum coming into this game. I'm still not really sold on Jake Fromm at Georgia filling in for the injured Jacob Eason. His stats have looked pretty good, but at least when Georgia played here at Notre Dame, he was good, but I felt like he didn't stand out to me. It wasn't like, oh man, this kid's going to be really something special. Maybe he will get there, but I'm not really sold on him at the moment. And I think Mississippi State. I think their offense has a really good chance to really test that Georgia D. Even though that Georgia D's obviously we know that their defense is really good based on what they did up here in South Bend. But I'm gonna say that Mississippi ride this wave of momentum, and I think that I think Dan Mullen's gonna get another signature win here on the road and really start to send a message to the rest of the SEC.
You see, Tim, if that does happen, then Mississippi. So on Reddit's college football, they have this thing called the imperialism map, where every parish or county starts off in the ownership of the closest team. And as you beat a team, you take all the territory they have. So Notre Dame, by virtue of losing to Georgia, the Michiana area is now flying red, white, and black, of the Georgia Bulldogs. So South Bend, if Tim's right, I hope you like maroon and white because Yeah, and then I hope you like Clemson because they're not Alabama's going to take that from them. So we might be
Alabama's a whole nother discussion. I mean,
Alabama's going to rule the Alabama's going to rule the world. For those of us who want to pay attention to the Reddit college football imperialism map, if you want to see that, I do retweet it all the time. So follow me on Twitter. I think it's interesting. Unfortunately, I live in the land of cowbell right now. So no, I live in the land of Aggies. I'm in A&M land, or not?
that's unfortunate.
No, I'm not. Who beat UL? A lot of people beat UL. Tulsa. But someone beat Tulsa. I don't know.
So are you in the land of the Golden Hurricane now?
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, South Louisiana, we do get hit by a lot of hurricanes. So that's neither here nor there. Go find the imperialism map. I'm sure if you just Google RCFB, r/CFB imperialism, you'll find it. I think that's a fun thing. Reddit makes things interesting by making other ridiculous stuff. So while Tim was saying why he disagrees with me, which he's probably right, but who cares, in the Battle of the Bulldogs, I was looking, that is the only ranked matchup this week. So...
Really?
I mean, I'm going to run through it real quick. I'm just going to...
No, TCU plays Oklahoma State. That's a ranked matchup.
Ooh, yes. That's at Oklahoma State. So let's talk about that game right now. I think Oklahoma State is going to win. SMU did look pretty decent against TCU, was leading for a good bit of that game. I know TCU fans are not exactly thrilled at the way their former Southwestern Conference rivals made the march across town and actually put together some semblance of a good game. I think SMU is definitely rebuilding itself slowly but surely. So TCU did give us some question marks. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State is just they're playing video games, right?
Yeah.
Like did they play? Was their game against Pitt this past week?
Yeah.
Yeah, they Rudolph the Orange quarterback.
He had like 4 or 5 touchdowns in the first half or something like that.
They had like 40-something points at halftime. It was outrageous. They were literally playing a video game. I mean,
they have all the cheat codes is what they have. They have the cheat codes.
It's like whenever I'm not a high scoring, but it's like whenever me and our college friend Matt Bradley would play NCAA, our dynasty. It was just not even close. It's a video game. Oklahoma State is not playing an actual college football season. They have found the unannounced copy of NCAA 18 that is going to come out. EA, please. We will play it on Sports Ramblings because why not? But Oklahoma State's playing a video game. That's the only way I can describe their play. They're just leapfrogging everyone in the rankings. I don't see any reason to pick against the fighting mullets of Mike Gundy's squad. So.
No, I agree. I mean, Oklahoma State. I mean, like I said, they've been actually a trendy pick to make the college football playoff this year. I know Sports Illustrated had them in there as the 4 seed, and I think they really have a shot this year. I mean, just given these ridiculous numbers that they put up on offense. I mean, I really don't see a way to doubt them in this game against TCU, especially after TCU had a little bit of a scare against SMU this past weekend. I don't think I'm really going to bet against the Cowboys until they play Oklahoma.
And even that's questionable.
Yeah, even that's questionable. And they might have to play twice because remember, they might play each other again in the Big 12 title game, since the Big 12 title game is going to be the top 2 finishers in the conference. So
and it's a safe bet it's going to be the Oklahoma schools.
Yeah, so I think those teams are probably going to have to play twice this year. So that's going to be very interesting. But I mean, outside of Bedlam, I don't think I can really count out Oklahoma State. I think they're just too good of an offense, and I think their defense is finally starting to come around a little here too, which, as we know, is always an issue for Big 12 teams. It seems like but I think this team definitely seems different from past Oklahoma State teams. I think Mike Gundy has a real contender there in Stillwater, and I'm not doubting him in this game. I think Oklahoma State wins big again.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I think we're both on the same page there. I mean, Oklahoma State again this year in particular is one of those teams you battle I feel like it's their safe pick in every game except Bedlam, and that is probably going to be a toss up. Speaking of the other team in Bedlam, the Sooners, they go to a winless Baylor. Tim, did you know Baylor was winless?
I did know they're winless. They're 0-3.
So the Fighting Dumpster Fires are going to go 0-4. That program is just the football team is a reflection of the program. I think some fans there in Waco are almost wishing they got a death penalty to save them from this nonsense of a season they have.
I mean, you lost to Liberty at home. Like,
It's just bad.
what do you do? And who did they lose to this past weekend? They lost to someone bad.
It was either
They
UTEP.
lost to Duke.
They lost to
It was
Duke.
Duke.
Did they lose to one of the UT something schools? Maybe.
Maybe like UT San Antonio or something like that.
Who knows?
Maybe.
Hold on, I'm gonna do some research. Let me look up Baylor's schedule. While I'm doing that, so let's see. They lost to Liberty, UTSA, and Duke. So
That's pretty bad.
that is pretty bad.
I think Baylor is back to be Baylor before RG3 got there.
ESPN's matchup predictor says Oklahoma has a 96% chance to win. I think that's generous to Baylor. So,
I mean, that's an absolute train wreck. For the record, I was shocked that Matt Rule took that job there, considering that like this program is in absolute disarray with all this fallout from that sex abuse scandal. I mean, and who knows? They might get a death penalty here out of this. I don't know. There's still a lot left to be decided there, but I was shocked when I heard that Matt Rule took this job. I mean, I know he's probably like, oh, I want to get my foot in the door of a Power 5 program, but it's like,
that's not the Power 5 program you want to
you
go
are
to.
you are stepping into you're stepping into like just an absolute like snake pit there.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just an absolute mess. And going 0-3 and you're losing to teams like Liberty, UTSA, and Duke. I mean,
Hey,
that's
Notre Dame lost to Duke last year. Duke is a respectable football program.
hey, they beat Northwestern this year too. I mean, hey, don't on the man.
Hey, you know what? Okay, so
But yeah, train wreck in Baylor. That's the bottom line.
rest in peace to the Baylor Bears there. Let's see. Alabama goes to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt pulled off an upset at home against Kansas State. I hope they enjoyed their run because the Tide's come to town. So I don't think we
Oops.
even need to talk about that game. So
That
move on.
stadium's gonna be like 60% crimson. I don't know. Maybe hey, it's on. Maybe Vandy shows up a little bit. I don't know. Maybe they shock the world. I mean, it's college football.
I hope they do. I have no reason to bet against Nick Saban ever.
No.
Also in the SEC,
I think the Tide rolls.
the Tide will roll. The Tide will roll again. So,
Shocker.
elsewhere in the SEC, Florida makes the trip to Lexington to take on Kentucky. Florida has not lost to Kentucky in 30 some odd years. I'm going to say that ends this weekend. Why? Just because Florida looks so abysmal at home against Tennessee. If I could have called the last defensive play for Tennessee, Florida would have had to go to overtime. I mean, if Tim and I called the last minute of that game for Tennessee, the Volunteers would have won. So I feel like if there's any year for Kentucky to pull it off, it's at home. Kentucky hasn't been too shabby this year. They haven't been great, but they haven't been terrible. Florida has has yet to find what they don't understand that there's a two-phase game to football, that there's an offense and a defense. I literally think they just put their defense out on the field for offense sometimes. If this is the game for the Wild, if there's going to be a game the Wildcats are going to end that losing streak, I feel like this could be the year.
I agree. I mean, I just saw a stat earlier. Kentucky is 3-0 for the first time since 2010, and I've been hearing that like their running game is definitely the strength of that team. So I think that they have a chance to really just run it down Florida's throat here, and you can just tell that like there's a lot more investment in the football program there in Lexington.
Mark Stoops is bringing in a ton of money, and through through my knowledge of college baseball, the entire Kentucky athletic department is upping its game in all the major sports. I mean, I know you were about to say they're dumping a lot of money into football because they're tired of being, the SEC's token basketball school. They're dumping a lot of money into baseball, and Kentucky baseball is a force to be reckoned with this past season. I'm sure that's only going to continue. And I mean, the same thing in football. The other Stoops coach is doing good things for the Wildcats, and I feel like this could be, another stepping stone for them to ascend the ladder in the pit of hell that is the SEC East.
No, yeah, I agree. Like, I think Kentucky's trying really hard. They're working really hard to become more than just a basketball school. And so, like I said, like they've put a lot of money. Mark Stoops has brought in a lot of money for that program. I believe they just renovated their football stadium. They just got a brand new practice facility like a year or two ago. So I mean, they've put a lot of time and effort into this football program, and I think the place is gonna be rocking on Saturday night. It's prime time on the SEC network. So I think Big Blue Nation is gonna show out, because ranked team in town, and they're feeling really good that they can actually win this game. So I mean, I think that Kentucky ends that losing streak, and I think that they're gonna find a way to win this game, and who knows, maybe they make that SEC East even more interesting. A lot to be sorted out there.
Yep. Let's go, Team Chaos. Come on, Big Blue Nation. So let's talk about LSU. LSU hosts Syracuse. They kind of had a home and home. They went up to Syracuse last year or 2 years ago. I'm not quite sure. My memory is a little hazy on that. But Syracuse goes down to Death Valley. Coach O is, I have faith in Coach O. I am a Coach O believer by virtue of I don't want LSU to bankrupt itself going after coaches that are going to come second in the SEC West at best. So while Saban's still around, let's go Coach O. Hopefully, he can prove the haters wrong, as they say nowadays. This is a great opportunity for the Tigers to get back on track. A Power 5 school, but still, again, they're contending with Boston College for the laughingstock of Power 5 football. The Oranges, they play in a basketball stadium. I mean, come on, man. So, I think Coach O gets things back on track. As an LSU fan, you're not watching this game for the score, because I feel like LSU could literally run fourth grade offense and beat Syracuse. You're watching to see if the discipline has improved. Are the penalties cut down? Is the defense playing better? Is the offense, actually, have some sort of rhythm and not shooting itself in the foot every single drive?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think that's the biggest thing to watch in this game. I don't think they should have any problem winning this game, but it's definitely going to be a test to see if they can get those penalties under control.
Mm-hmm. So this is we'll see how the Bayou Bengals rebound from a historic from a historic low point. So you can only go up from here, right, guys? Please go up. So that's
At least you're not Baylor, right?
at least you're not. At least your program is not being considered for a death penalty, a la Baylor, somewhat Ole Miss. So, Ole Miss is another pick we got wrong last week. We forgot to mention that.
Yeah, we missed that one too.
Oops. But Cal plays USC this week. I think USC is going to win. I don't think we need to talk about that. Tim, you want to tell us about Notre Dame's game?
So Notre Dame plays at Michigan State this Saturday night. Another big test for the Irish. Even though both teams are unranked, I think this is still a rivalry game. Still means a lot to both programs. And I think I know a lot of people will say that Michigan State, they had such a bad year last year. They went 3-9 or something.
They beat Notre Dame last year.
They beat us. Woo!
That was our second worst loss last year, by the way.
Oh, it was bad. But I mean, so you look at this. I mean, so a lot of people doubt. Michigan State because they're like, oh, here. But I think that Mark D'Antonio is too good of a head coach to let that happen for a second year in a row. I expect Michigan State to be much improved this year. And I think that they're definitely going to be bringing it Saturday night. They're always known for a tough defense. So once again, Notre Dame's offense is going to be put to the test. I don't think there's too much to worry about for Michigan State on offense, but
you never know.
But you never know. I mean, the Notre Dame defense always needs room to improve. So just a big test overall. Again, like I said, just a big rivalry game, Saturday night, prime time. But I really believe that if Notre Dame wins this game, then I think we're still just a one-loss team going into the USC game next month. Because you think about it, after this game, we have Miami of Ohio at home, which should be a dub. Mm-hmm. Then we play at North Carolina, which should be a dub.
Yeah,
and then we have a bye week before USC comes to town. So I think that this is really like our biggest game between now and USC. I think USC is, without a doubt, the biggest game left on our schedule. But so I think this is if Notre Dame can win this game, I'll feel a lot better about the Irish moving forward. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game, but I think that if Notre Dame, if we play our cards right, I think we can pull away with like a 24-17 win, something like that, 24-14. I want to say about a 7 to 10 point win, somewhere in that range.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's an accurate assessment. I feel like Brian Kelly's definitely in a hotter seat than Mark D'Antonio up there in East Lansing. But both schools are looking at their coaches like, you're going to rebound this year, right? And this is, kind of where the rubber meets the road. This is a big game for both programs. I mean, and especially if you're Michigan State, you're looking at the rest of your conference schedule like, crap, wins are going to be hard to come by.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame, we're looking at the Fighting Sam Darnolds somehow not losing, despite the fact they've been struggling. So this is an important game for both teams. I think there are bigger stakes for Michigan State just because, like I said, their conference schedule is not going to be easy on them by any means. So although I haven't seen anything about Michigan State, but if I feel like Notre Dame does have has recovered from the Georgia game. I mean, Notre Dame we didn't touch over, but Notre Dame played they didn't play bad in the Georgia game. Georgia's defense made some stops and forced some field goals, and that's why that game turned out the way it did for the most part. And
our defense actually kept us in that game because our offense couldn't do anything against that Georgia defense.
I mean, what's our defense has held teams under 20 points every game. Because Temple had 19. What was it? 19, 20, and 20 are the points we've given up.
I think Temple had 14, maybe less.
So something
like that.
The point is we're averaging just around or just below 20 points a game given up on defense. We've scored 49, 19, and 49. So, that's pretty decent, aside from the loss. But, the offense can definitely put up big numbers. I feel like the Irish could definitely, a win is foreseeable here. I think Notre Dame is favored by about 3 or 4 points. I haven't looked, but I feel like that's about right. I could see Notre Dame winning between a field goal and a touchdown. It's like a 4 or 5 point victory. For the Irish is what I have. And I agree with Tim. I do think it will be more of an SEC style, low scoring game as Michigan State likes to play, and Notre Dame we tend to play the style of our opponent, whether it be an air raid or a ground and pound. We don't tend to set the pace of the game, but I still think the Irish will get a victory there. Speaking of the state of Michigan, we put them on upset alert. Michigan goes to Purdue. Purdue has looked pretty good. A loss against Louisville to open the season. That's, they were played pretty well in. They were actually, leading for some parts of that game. Louisville got exposed by Clemson, but for all we know, Clemson might be the best team in college football. We have yet to see. The Tigers still need to be tested a little bit more. Honestly, we won't even know until the last snap of the last game of the last football game. So who knows?
They're back to us in January. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, and we all know how unreliable the transitive property of football is. One of the most unreliable. They are almost as unreliable as the Italians in World War II. Like, that's just how bad the transitive property in football is.
And CNN.
CNN is the only thing less reliable than the transitive property of football. So ignore fake news. Michigan's on upset alert. I don't necessarily think that means they will lose. I just think Purdue is not your cupcake in the Big Ten anymore. What's their coach's name? They got him from Western Kentucky.
Jeff Brom. And when Purdue hired him, I really thought that was a great hire for them. And when I was thinking to myself, I think Purdue's going to really start to rebound here in the next couple of years. Because I think Jeff Brom is one of the up-and-coming rising stars in college football. And so I think that, and as we saw with that Mizzou game, now I know Mizzou definitely has their own struggles, but I mean, for Purdue to beat them that badly on the road, I think definitely shows that that the Boilermakers have definitely improved a lot, and I think this is going to be a huge stepping stone for them.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the Wolverines barely pull it out, but Purdue's going to give them all kinds of fits. But I would love for Purdue to win. I'd like for them to get something out of giving the state of Louisiana Drew Brees. But I still think the fighting khakis of Jim Harbaugh's Michigan squad I still think they have what it takes to pull off the win. But I am probably less sure of this game than I am Mississippi State Georgia. Not because the Mississippi State Georgia is more of an unknown. This one is just Purdue has looked pretty damn good, and Michigan has done okay. They beat Florida, but Florida is absolute garbage, as we know. And so we'll see what happens down there in the other Lafayette. So, yep.
The West version.
The Western version. Yep. Not to be confused with Lafayette, Louisiana, home of the Raging Cajuns. So, go UL. I don't know who UL's playing, so should I look that up? Tim, talk about another game while I figure out who UL's playing.
I know the big game out west. Washington goes to Boulder to take on the Colorado Buffaloes. That could be an interesting matchup. I know, rematch of the Pac-12 title game from a year ago. Colorado definitely doesn't look as good as they did last year. They lost some key players from last year's team. but I think that could definitely be a little bit of a trap game for the Huskies. It's like I said, it's in Boulder. I'm sure there'll be a rowdy crowd there. Washington, we all know they have the target on their back now. They're the defending conference champions. They went to the playoff last year. I think that it has the potential to be a close game, but I think Washington still comes away with the win because I think they do want revenge from getting blown out, eventually getting blown out by Alabama in the playoff last year, and everyone going into the season, everyone was talking about how great he is and this and that, and Washington sitting there thinking, we won the conference last year, So I think they definitely are playing with a chip on their shoulder. So I expect them to win this game because, like I said, I think this is kind of like a revenge tour in a way for Washington this year. But I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado makes it interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I definitely agree, because Colorado wasn't too shabby last year either. They're definitely a program that's trying to get back up into relevancy. So, yeah, I definitely think I definitely agree with you there. I think Washington will still win, but who knows? It might be an interesting game. This week in general, not that many sexy matchups, but in general, some interesting games. For the record, UL host the ULM Warhawks, who are 0-2. I think the Raging
Big in-state rivalry, right, Mikey?
I mean, who is the real UL? And I will tell you who's the real UL. Lafayette is the real UL, because Lafayette people call their school UL and the other school ULM. Up in Monroe, they call us ULL and they call them ULM. We don't acknowledge that we need another letter in our name. However, as people have joked, UL is definitely ULL after their 2 losses to Tulsa and Texas A&M. They have taken 2 L's. Go Cajuns, beat Warhawks. It's the
hey,
Sun
but
Belt.
what was that SEC Network last week on the scoreboard?
Didn't the scoreboard say Louisiana?
Yeah, they acknowledge that they're just Louisiana.
It's great. I mean, everyone knows. I mean, ULM as an academic institution is in trouble. So that's neither here nor there. I mean, price of oil go up, or my state's going to have to shut down a bunch of schools. Who knows? Other Sunbelt school that has a potentially big game, only mentioning it because I will be there. SMU hosts the Arkansas State Red Wolves. Arkansas State knowing as being a team that can give other teams fits. Former job of Hugh Freeze, who ran almost more trick plays than Les Miles. Obviously, Hugh Freeze is currently unemployed and having issues explaining his actions to his wife.
Oops, sorry, hon.
But Chad Morris and his up-and-coming Mustang squad, after a very respectable performance against TCU, host the Arkansas State Red Wolves. I think the Red Wolves, like I said, they can give teams, they can punch above their weight class. But I don't want to, SMU is back. What does that even mean? They're definitely not Pony Express anywhere near that. But no. I think SMU is getting closer back to being relevant. By that I mean bowl games, and I think SMU might win this. They'll probably beat Arkansas State. Arkansas State is not Arkansas State of Sunbelt's past. No one cares about this game. I'm just mentioning it because I'm going to be there. Pony up. So
there you go, Mikey.
Shout out to my sister, and she probably knows less about their football team than I do.
Does she watch our show, Mikey?
Probably not. So
probably not.
Cool.
Well, you should tell her because we give an SMU shout out here.
Yep. Shout out to SMU. Who else is playing this week? Anyone? I mean, other teams are playing. Is there any other games you are going to be paying attention to?
I did see that Florida State hosts NC State this weekend. Florida State's first game since the Alabama game, because they had 2 games in a row canceled because of Hurricane Irma. So obviously a lot of cleanup efforts still going on there in the Sunshine State. Still a lot to be done there. But so I think Florida State is also on upset alert even though this game is in Tallahassee, because NC State always seems to be a team that really pushes these more powerful teams to their limits. So there's that factor going. Florida State, I'm sure, is going to be rusty because they haven't played in 3 weeks. Obviously, we all know that their star quarterback DeAndre Francois is done for the year with a knee injury. So I think NC State definitely can give the Noles all they ask for and then some. But I think that Florida State still finds a way to win this game despite all that. Big part of that is because they're at home, and I think emotions will be running high, especially since they're finally back playing after Hurricane Irma. So I think a lot of Seminole fans just want a reason to scream right now, and so because of that, I think the Tomahawk is going to be chopping on Saturday, and I think the Noles are going to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, I definitely feel the same way. The only reason I would put Florida State on upset alert is because NC State tends to be the Ole Miss, Mississippi State of the ACC. They just beat teams they shouldn't every now and then. They punch above their weight class more often than not, and but it is at home for Florida State, and Florida State's definitely the better team. So we'll see how that game goes down in Tallahassee. I've covered every college football matchup coming up that I want to. Tim, obviously, you feel free to add more like you just did there with Florida State, NC State. But other than that, I don't think there's not. This is kind of a quiet week. A lot of teams are either just getting into conference play or getting ready to start conference play. So this is kind of the last minute tune-ups for a lot of these teams.
Mm-hmm. Oh, one more game. I mean, I nearly forgot about. It's the Saturday night game. Penn State travels to Iowa City to take on Iowa, which I think Penn State also could be on upset alert here because Iowa, they always seem to play well when they've got a big ranked opponent coming into their building. I mean, see what happened when they played Michigan there last year. They upset, I think, like a number 1 or a number 2 Penn State team there back in 2008. I think Iowa was unranked in that game as well. So they always get up to play when they have a big ranked team coming into their building. So I think Penn State definitely on upset alert here on Saturday night. But I still expect the Nittany Lions to come away with the win. But I definitely expect it to be close. But I think that's like the theme of this week in college football in general. Not a lot of sexy matchups, as you said, Mikey, but it still has the potential for a lot of fireworks. A lot of interesting matchups that could result in some big upsets that we've talked about. And who knows? I mean, if a couple of these upsets do happen, it's going to really affect the playoff landscape going forward. And I think this Penn State-Iowa game is just another one of them.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, Iowa, I feel like this game is also going to be – I feel like we're going to have a lot of low-scoring, closer than you expect games this week. It's going to be one of those weeks where you're not really going to be inclined to tune into some of the games, but you're gonna, if you are, you're gonna be like, wow, that game was a lot better than I thought. I'm gonna be, in Dallas. My sister's a student at SMU. It's parents' weekend, so I'm going up there with mom and dad. I'm probably gonna be checking my phone all night, getting yelled at for having my phone out at the dinner table because way too many good games are going on. But yeah,
it's what you have to do, Mikey, this time of.
So, just to kind of put a little cherry on top of this whole college football segment, which is like 98% of all of our shows during the fall, the LSU loss to Mississippi State just made me realize that, both LSU's still rebuilding. LSU's, has the growing pains with Ed Ogeron. It might not be the New Year's Six, game immediate success that people are expecting. So might want to buckle up. Same thing with Notre Dame. Notre Dame is on the verge of wanting to fire Brian Kelly, but also on the verge of being like, okay, maybe you're getting things back on the rails a little bit. So this has left me with one and only one course of action: to cheer for everyone's favorite team, Chaos. I tweeted out, you know what, the season's out the window. One of my teams is probably not going to win the national championship. It's very, people weren't really expecting them to be that good anyway, but it's just time to throw it out the window and cheer for Team Chaos. Root for 2007 levels of chaos. I want Vanderbilt to beat Alabama. I just, Purdue to beat Michigan. Iowa, even though I don't generally like Iowa to beat Penn State. I just said throw it all out the window. Let's have upsets all over the place. So I'm going to be
Mississippi State winning the SEC type of. Right?
I don't want that to happen. Like Vanderbilt let's have Vanderbilt win the SEC.
Kentucky.
You see, Tim, people we like to tease Mississippi State because you know who has more SEC titles than Mississippi State?
Tulane, right?
Tulane. And how long ago did the Green Wave leave the Southeastern Conference? Was it like
a long time ago?
The 50s or the 60s or something like that? It's been a while. So definitely, if I had to pick someone else to... no. How did we forget? Aggies, Razorbacks. We need to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. Jerry's World.
This game and Jerry's World. First of all, Arkansas is doing some cowboy-inspired uniforms. They look better than anything that Razorbacks have ever worn. Like
really,
that silver and that darkish red. Definitely look it up. I might have retweeted it. I don't know. Follow me on Twitter because I like to think I'm interesting sometimes. Their uniforms are going to be fire, and I feel like someone is going to get fired at DFW on Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Brett Bielema is 10-22 in SEC games, and Kevin Sumlin is trying to rival Bo Pelini for year after year mediocrity. So we'll see how this game fares. I like to think the Aggies are going to win unless it goes to overtime because everyone knows Arkansas rarely loses overtime games. I know they have done it, but it just seems like it doesn't happen. It's like it's a running gag of college football. So
it's like the my leg and
it's my leg and SpongeBob never fight a land war in Asia. It's just a running...
They killed Kenny in South Park.
100% that's what it is. So if the game ends in regulation, I have the Aggies. If it goes to overtime, I have the Razorbacks.
I think so.
Am I allowed to pick like that?
No, Mikey, when you've got two teams that are like so mediocre, it's like it hurts. And that's what you have to do. You just have to make like a BS pick like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there we go. That is it. So we kind of mentioned Nebraska. We're transitioning out of college football games to just college sports news. Nebraska has fired their athletic director effective earlier this morning when we were recording it on Thursday, November 21st. Nebraska decided, you know what, we're done with you. I was talking to one of our friends from Nebraska, Trenton, and he said the best decision he ever made was firing Bo Pelini. Now, and firing Bo Pelini was a very questionable decision. Some people really liked it. Some people really hated it. I personally thought it was not a great decision, but it was a situation where you knew Bo and this athletic director whose name escapes me, but it's not going to be relevant because you're never going to hear about him again. I knew that he and Bo butted heads a lot. And just kind of from what I could gather from just, my brief knowledge of Nebraska athletics is that Bo was probably in the right there more so than the AD. So I think this is a good move for the Huskers. Their football team and Mike Riley did just lose to Northern Illinois. That's not what you want to do as the Cornhusker Nation is looking back over the shoulder for Bo and being like, you know what, 9-4 wasn't too bad. 9-4 is
the glory days, right?
9-4 is better than this shit. So We'll see what we'll see. This is obviously has long-term implications. We'll see how this turns out for Cornhusker Nation.
Yeah, I agree. This is gonna be a very this is a very crucial time. I feel like for Nebraska football and maybe really like their athletics in general. I mean, because I mean, they went from like the consistent 9-4 years of Pelini to now losing at home to Northern Illinois. I mean, this is what like Mike Riley's third year, I want to say, at Nebraska now. So he's definitely had some time now. Like his system should be in place by now, and if you're losing to Northern Illinois at home, that's just not a good sign going forward, especially with conference play starting up. So this is a very crucial time for Nebraska football, and that these fans are they're going to be getting tired of this. Especially like this is a team that won like 3 national championships in a row back in the mid '90s to now losing at NIU at home. I mean, that just can't happen if you're at Nebraska. Too much proud history there to allow this stuff to happen. So I mean, this is a very, very crucial year there in Lincoln. If they don't do well in conference play, I personally would not be surprised if Mike Riley gets fired as well, and Nebraska starts looking for someone like a Chip Kelly or a Bob Stoops to come in. Maybe even they Les Miles. I don't know, but we'll see. But without a doubt, this is a very crucial season for Nebraska football. But I think it seems like getting rid of this athletic director who butted heads with Bo Pelini a lot was definitely a step in the right direction for them. But like I said, still a lot left to be determined on the field. And so this is just going to be a very crucial season for them going forward, and see whether or not more changes need to be made there in Nebraska.
Yeah, I think Mike Riley's toast. I feel like there's no way around that. Nebraska is one of those football programs like Texas, like Notre Dame, like kind of Miami, like USC. If they're not good, all of college football suffers. I mean, if the football gods had it their way, Nebraska would be great every year. Texas and Oklahoma would be great every year. Miami would be great every year. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. It's one of those programs that just the whole sport suffers when it's down in the dumps like this. So I don't think Mike Riley's going to survive the season. I don't think he'll survive the month of October, depending on how those games go.
Think so?
I don't know their schedule. If I saw their schedule, I'd be able to more definitively tell you when he's going to get fired. But I think it's sooner rather than later, because with all these teams like Tennessee, maybe if things go poorly enough, Notre Dame toss their hat in the ring. The Chip Kelly sweepstakes is one that you might want to get on sooner rather than later. However, Nebraska's an Adidas school, right? Is that correct?
Yes, they are Adidas.
That might be a difficulty in hiring Chip Kelly. However, I don't know how much that actually matters to him. I've heard it matters a lot that he goes to Nike school. But you know what? You can always persuade him in other ways. So we'll see how the Cornhuskers fare. I know that they definitely want to also improve their other major sports like basketball and baseball. So I know their whole athletic department's been kind of down the dumps. We'll see where this takes them.
I'm looking at their schedule right now. So they do have Rutgers at home this weekend. Hopefully get back on track there. Then they play at Illinois. That should probably be a win too. But then once they get to October, they've got 2 really hard games in a row. But they are at home. They host Wisconsin and then Ohio State. And then they do have a bye week, and then they go to Purdue at the end of October.
Purdue will get Mike Riley fired. You heard it here first.
There you go,
if he's
folks.
around,
So,
if he's still around.
I don't think that's out of the question. Like if they beat Rutgers, beat Illinois, but then lose to both Wisconsin, and then lose at Purdue too. I mean,
See ya.
if they lose all those games, I'm doing the math here. 1, 2, 3. I mean, they mean like what? Like one? They mean like 3-5, I think.
Ooh, nope, he's gone. Something like that.
They mean 3-5 that way. They're 1-2 as of right now. That's not good.
No.
Yeah, definitely a lot. I mean, looking at that schedule now, I'm like, yeah, I don't see question that Mike Riley's gone for October.
Tim,
Before October ends, excuse me.
Yeah, I just thought about. You want to know why it's a good? You want to know what would it be grounds alone for firing that athletic director? He
What?
scheduled their bye week before the Purdue game.
That is pretty bad.
Like before
It's like
Wisconsin.
Well, it's like you should. It's like I mean I don't know. I don't know how much say they have with like the Big Ten conference as a whole, but it's like, can't you be like, can we flip? Purdue and Ohio State, like play Purdue before the bye week and then Ohio State after. I mean that makes a lot more sense to me. It's like I'd like an extra week to prepare for Ohio State more so than Purdue.
Yeah,
unless Purdue's like still undefeated by then or something.
I mean, maybe we'll look like the idiots because Purdue is going to be in the top 10 after beating Michigan and continuing to, and climbing the ranks with their only loss to Louisville. So who knows? We could.
That's right. I keep forgetting about that. So
it's way too far in the future. So I mean, that's all I want to really say about college football. I don't want to talk about the NFL. The Saints are 0-2. Same old, same old.
Same with the Bears.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for following the NFL. To baseball.
The no fun league, right?
The no fun league. Okay, so you know why we're not going to talk about the NFL, but we're also violating that by talking about the NFL. The Texas USC game had more fans than the Rams home game and the Chargers home game combined. But the Chargers are playing in a 30,000 seat soccer stadium. They still didn't sell out. So guess what?
That's pretty embarrassing.
One college football game drew more fans than 2 NFL games. Yep, sorry. That's the whole NFL, the whole relocation thing. The Raiders, if they moved, should have gone to LA. The Rams should have stayed put in St. Louis. And I think the Chargers should have stayed in San Diego. But if any, I don't know who. I do like that a team's moving to Vegas. I just don't think there's a good team to be in Vegas. If that makes any sense. So I think I'm done talking about the NFL. I'm not mentioning anything else. It's terrible. Let's talk
This is almost exclusively college football, right?
Yeah. However, we will briefly touch over Major League Baseball. 3 teams have now clinched their division. That would be Cleveland in the AL Central, the Houston Astros in the AL West. Let's go Stros. And the Washington Nationals in the NL East. Cubs are currently 4.5 games up with a win tonight. And outside of that, the Dodgers and the Red Sox have both clinched a playoff spot so far, guaranteed. Currently in the AL wildcard race, it's the Yankees and the Twins, but the Angels are 2.5 games right behind the Twins. And then in the NL, it's Arizona and Colorado, but the Brewers are only a game and a half behind the Rockies. So the division races are looking pretty good right now. Pretty close. It's still anyone's game. Only half the divisions have been clinched. Only half of the playoff, only 5 out of the 10 playoff spots have been guaranteed. So we shall see how this turns out. We'll see if Tim's fighting Cubs can, go back to the playoffs. Hopefully winning their division, having to play that annoying winner-take-all wild card game.
I don't want to do that again. I went through that 2 years ago, wild card game against the Pirates, and I almost had a heart attack that game, knowing that we had this entire amazing season, and it can all come crashing down in one game.
One pitch could ruin your season.
Yeah, that was terrible. But thank God Jake Arrieta is He didn't for the rest of that postseason, which sucked. But yeah, that wild card game took like 3 years off my life. I swear. I mean, and then of course last postseason just took like half my life away. I swear.
Tim's gonna die at 36 at this rate. So, go Cubs, go! But also, I do want to point out team I grew up going to games at, the Houston Astros, first time ever winning their division since switching over to the American League. I know we have some fellow sports rambling fans who are huge Stros fans, so let's go Stros. If I need to dig out the picture to prove I'm not a bandwagoner, I'm like about this tall in the picture.
Old red star, the old red open star, right?
Dude, I was at my aunt's house and she has like a toy room for her grandkids, and there's like this 18-wheeler toy or whatever. It's the National League logo, the old Astros logo, and what was it? It was like a Biggio MVP on the top or something like that. I think I've sent Tim a picture of this at one point. It's like, talk about throwback. So
that's incredible.
But I have a picture at Minute Maid Park before it was Minute Maid Park. I'm Schrodinger's bandwagon fan. I'm both a bandwagoner and they are my team. So I don't know. I like baseball. You should like baseball too. It's gonna be fun to watch. That's all I have to say.
It's fun.
So,
but I think that you mentioned the Astros. I think that like last minute waiver deal for Justin Verlander
huge.
was the move that the Astros said, we are going for it all this year. I mean, because they made that deal like just a few hours before the deadline came up to finalize your not finalize, but before the deadline came up to have players eligible for the postseason. So it was like, I think it was like August 15th or 16th or something like that. And it's like, if you didn't have a player on your roster by that time, then that player is not eligible to be on your postseason roster. So they got Verlander like a couple of hours before that deadline. Like, you want to talk about 11th hour here. But it was definitely like, they definitely felt like they needed one more really good pitcher in their rotation to really make a World Series run. And that's what, so like, they got that deal done with Detroit. So I think that is definitely a sign from the Astros that we are going for it all this year. We're not satisfied with, just getting to the postseason or getting to the ALCS. We want to win the whole thing this year. And I think, and they're looking at a team like the Cleveland Indians, who, they're battling with right now for the number 1 seed in the American League. And so they're looking at a team like Cleveland and all the incredible bats they have right now. I mean, they've won like 26 of their last 27 games.
It's unreal. The Indians are on a tear.
And two of their best players, Jason Kipnis and Michael Brantley, have been injured. I think they just got Andrew Miller off the DL. If they're playing that well and some of their best players are injured, that's a scary, scary team to be running into. I think Houston acknowledged that, and they said, we need one more guy like Verlander to combat that Cleveland batting order. Because as we've seen especially in recent postseasons, is that pitching makes all the difference. That's what the Cubs had last year. That's what the Mets had when they went to the World Series 2 years ago. The Royals were really good a couple of years ago because they had an pen. Pitching, whether it's your rotation or your bullpen, you need at least one of them needs to be really good. The other one needs to be at least, solid. And that makes all the difference. That's what we've learned in the last several MLB postseasons. So I think that was definitely the move that Houston felt like they needed to make because they realized that pitching makes all the difference. And when you're going up against teams like Cleveland, like Boston, with their just these lethal batting orders now, I mean, you need starting pitching if you want to advance in the postseason.
I, I can't say it better myself. I mean, you kind of see this as Verlander maybe past his prime and maybe on the downswing of his career. But I mean, the Cubs won the World Series last year, and Lester and Lackey can both be said to have been last year, definitely this year. On past their prime. So we'll see how it happens. It's gonna be one hell of an ALCS between the Stros and the Windians. So um, Boston, if you can please damage the Indians rotation if you end up playing them, or the Astros. I don't know how it's going to work out. Boston's probably going to win their division, play whoever gets second place. I'm not paying attention now.
As of right now, I believe Cleveland would be the number one seed. So they play the winner of the wild card game, which right now would be the Twins. But obviously, I think the Yankees are pretty much assured of a playoff spot, at least the first AL wild card. They can still win their division too. That's tightened up considerably with the Red Sox. But the second AL wild card is where it gets a little messier. Twins have the Twins have kind of distanced themselves a little bit, but they just got swept by the Yankees. So that's definitely left the door open for teams like the Angels, the Rangers, the Royals are still right there. Mariners trying to hang. So a lot of teams still in the mix there. But so yeah, right now Cleveland would face the winner of the wild card game, and I believe Red Sox would be the 3 seed, Astros would be the 2. So Astros and the Red Sox would face off in the ALDS as of right now. So that's how it looks on the American League side. National League side, I believe the Dodgers should be a lock to win they haven't won their division yet, but to barring an epic collapse, I think the Dodgers are on pace to still be the number 1 seed in the NL, although the Nats are close. Obviously, the NL Central still has to be sorted out with the Cubs. They've at least distanced themselves a little bit, thank God. They're making me sweat these last couple of weeks here. But Brewers and Cardinals are still hanging around. They're right there in the you mentioned too, Mikey. Diamondbacks have really pulled away from the Rockies right now for the first NL wild card, so I expect them to hold on to that. Rockies are really struggling lately. So Brewers and Cardinals have really come back to them. And I think a big factor in that has to be that you think about Colorado, and they're playing in that high altitude environment all season long, and you get tired a lot easier and a lot faster when you play in higher altitude like that in Denver. And so I remember reading an article Sports Illustrated earlier this summer that says that definitely is a factor, that by the time August and September roll around and teams are making the stretch run, the Rockies are kind of starting to run out of gas because their bodies are just so taxed from playing in that high altitude all year long that it's really hard for them to sustain it through the end of the season. So that's why I'm kind of not surprised that they've come back to the pack, but it's definitely made things a lot more interesting there in the NL wildcard chase. And who knows, maybe they don't postseason, which would be crazy because they've been in that spot all season long. So definitely a lot to be sorted out here these last 10 days or so in the season.
Buckle up, boys and girls. Baseball's about to get crazy. All right, Tim, I think we've talked enough about, we've rambled enough about sports. We're closing in on an hour 45 here. So
lots of rambling, some sports.
Only a little bit of sports. So I mentioned I will be at the SMU Arkansas State game. Maybe I don't even know if I'm going to the game. I'll be at SMU though. So
You'll be in the vicinity.
over under a quarter. How long you think my family's going to be there? Who knows? Maybe if they win, we'll stay longer.
Depends on how hungry they are.
Yeah, it depends on how much food or drink we have tailgating. So that's where I'll be. Tim, where will you be this college football Saturday?
I will be up in East Lansing for the Notre Dame Michigan. I'm really excited about this. It's actually the first time I've ever been to a Notre Dame game. The closest thing I've had to that was when I went with this guy and a comparable Matt Bradley to Indianapolis a couple of years ago for our Shamrock Series game against Purdue down at Lucas Oil Stadium, which was a lot of fun, by the way. So that's the closest thing I've had to a Notre Dame road. But obviously, this is going to be my first true road game. I'm really excited because the people who have been to road games before tell me that they're tons of fun. So I'm really excited, really looking forward to it. Again, like we mentioned earlier, it's going to be a lot of energy in that stadium. Even though it's an unranked matchup, still a big rivalry game. Two teams with a lot to prove. So I'm just really looking forward to this. I'm really looking forward to just taking it all in and just enjoying another fun college football Saturday, just in a little bit different environment this time around.
Yep. The only Notre Dame road games I've been to, not counting Shamrock Series games, were Clemson and Florida State. I hope you have better luck than I do.
I hope so too.
As far as I know, there's not going to be a hurricane out of Lake Michigan, so you're going to avoid the Clemson debacle. And Big Ten refs, or I'm assuming it's going to be Big Ten refs, or is it going to be ACC refs? Who knows?
I think you'll probably be Big Ten refs.
I hope it's Big Ten refs. There are no good refs, but the ACC refs are especially bad. So
the ACC refs have definitely lost some standing over the last few years.
Yeah, especially to us Notre Dame fans. So that is it for this wonderful week I forgot of college football and sports ramblings. Be sure to join us next week. Videos tend to go live Friday around lunchtime-ish. I will be spending way too much time staying up to get this one ready because, packing for Dallas and all of that. So just a quick reminder to the folks back home to subscribe to the channel, and you can click on, there's like a little bell icon next to subscribe. That is the notification button. YouTube is so generous, they will send you an email whenever us buffoons go live on YouTube. And, especially for those, older friends and family who, might not be as in tune to the social media nonsense. That is Twitter. But if you are into that, be sure to follow Tim and I. Instagram. Tim is on Instagram. I have a other YouTube channel where I play video games, usually as the bad guys, but let's not talk about that. I may or may not be playing Fascist Italy, my World War II game. Let's go, team.
Side note, right? This is the ramblings, kind of.
Dude, you need to check out that series. I am kicking ass as Italy. So that's neither here nor there. Let's old people. Not insulting old people, but you can get sports ramblings to your email by clicking on that bell icon. So do that. But for everyone else and older people who are more social media inclined, you got our Snapchats. The QR codes are there. You got our Twitter handles. You got Tim's Instagram. You got my YouTube. You know how to find us. We might post stuff from our games. I'm sure Tim will have a lot more interesting to see than I will. Again, I'm still not even sure if I'm going to the SMU game. I will be tailgating, so go Irish, go Tigers, pony up, and go your team so long as it's not Alabama, USC, Michigan, or someone we don't like. Tim, sound good?
Sounds like a plan, Panzinator.
All right, Panzinator. Why did I make that name? Video game names are funny. See you later, Timmy ZM, Tim, 94, whatever.
Alphabet soup, right?
Alphabet soup. Dude, your last name's an alphabet soup.
Polacks. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what happened to Poland.
The winged hussars arrived.
Oh, so let's just cap this off with some ramblings. So there's a Twitter account you should be all be following. Speaking of Poland, it's like at Real Time World War II, I think. It's basically a Twitter account that does World War II in real time. So it's in 1939 right now. So the Fighting Tim Zedanics over in Poland are getting sandwiched between the Ruskies and the Nazis, and it's not looking good. I don't think Poland's going to make it out of this one. Something tells me this might have actually already happened. So ramblings, right, Tim? Some sports.
Lots of rambling, some sports.
All right. So I think we're done. Thanks everyone so much for watching. And until next time, this is Panzernator and the General signing out.
Gyrish.
Later, y'all.